Good afternoon. It's Carol Salter here reading a new story from her work. Today it's out of the Orange anthology, which is the Inspiration Writers Group published anthology. I hope you enjoy it. It's a short story. Both orange. She sat in the furthest corner of the quaint oak-beamed tea rooms. Her stomach flitted with nerves. Her fingers matched it, adding a slight tremor to the situation. That could be him, she surmised, taking in the features of the man sitting directly opposite. 20-something, fits the age, but I didn't picture him with a full beard. That's so yesterday, she shuddered. Surprisingly, Petra liked her men clean-shaven. Or him. She grimaced at the bald man in his mid-50s chatting to his obvious wife, probably regaling her on the benefits of automatic over manual shift. Petra groaned, muttering under her breath. One extreme to the other. He could have lied about his age, she mused, as the waitress arrived at the table with her order. Then it struck her. He could have lied about a whole load of stuff. Her stomach did another flip, and she concentrated on sorting out her pot of Darjeeling to control her escalating nerves. She almost choked on her first hot sip of tea as she realised he could be a she. Petra half rose from her seat. Then, remembering that her perfect cup of tea was still waiting, sat back down and reviewed her idiotic situation. How did I get into this? What was I thinking? Agreeing to meet some geek I know on the internet face to face. She could be anyone. Before she knew it, she drunk one cup of tea and poured another, adding an extra amount of brown sugar to give her unnecessary added energy. Petra sighed. They are late. She checked her phone again. Yes, late by 1 minute and 33 seconds. She closed her phone case. Aren't you supposed to be early, or at least on time for a first date? She grumbled the last two words out loud, forgetting momentarily where she was due to her nervousness. The bald man glanced her way like she'd done something embarrassing. She offered him a slight apologetic smile because she felt he expected it, before returning to her inner monologue. I was 10 minutes early, more fool me. He's never late on Call of Duty, our favourite game, always has my back. Is that him? A slim 20-something man came into her eye line, sadly with another beard, but this one was nicely trimmed, short and edgy. He walked over to the counter. She tried to hear what he ordered. Is that Darjeeling? No, it can't be. Coincidence, she decided. She was proved right when another person joined him, this time female, and the kiss she gave the beard left Petra in no doubt this man was unavailable. Petra sighed for the umpteenth time, wondering whether to go or stay. Deep in indecision, she missed her date's entrance and almost forgot to breathe when he suddenly appeared directly in front of her, soundlessly, like some insubstantial wraith or a figment of her overworked imagination. Hi. His deep baritone made her insides quiver. She'd learnt years ago that if someone looked too good to be true, then they probably were. She closed her eyes, not risking an answer until she assured herself he was real. Nope, he's still standing in front of me like my imagined Adonis. Did you say hi to me? She asked in full idiot mode. Without thinking, she slapped herself on the forehead. a habit she'd begun as a child when chastised by her elders. "I thought I was the only one who slapped themselves on their forehead," he replied, smiling. Ignoring Petra's question because he correctly assumed it was rhetorical, the man continued with his own assessment of the physical characteristics which he'd begun long before appearing at Petra's table. "And I see we're both orange too." Petra nodded, staring at his incredible orange hair. "I told you I was orange before," she admonished him. He nodded in agreement, and still smiling, settled onto the other chair opposite without asking permission. He studied her brilliant mop of hair for several moments, then announced, "I don't believe your locks are as orange as mine. More Titian," he suggested, struggling for the right word. Petra reached behind her and removed her ponytail band, then shook her wonderful long mane out to emphasise her disagreement with his summary, unaware he was teasing her. "OK, yours are more luscious and vibrant, but mine are no less orange," he conceded, swallowing hard after staring at Petra's fiery tresses. He'd been imagining his fingers running through her long locks as he held her close to him. He grinned widely at the thought. Such a lovely smile, Petra thought, amazed at how relaxed she felt chatting to a man she'd only just met in the flesh. As if reading her mind, he spoke again, saying out loud what she was thinking. "It's not surprising that I feel relaxed around you, Petra. We've known each other how long?" Petra's bubble burst. He had to remind her of that night all those months ago. 10 months, she stuttered, visual memories cascading into view. Images of her older sister dying as the car was torn to pieces in the high-speed crash threatened to overwhelm her. The screeching of brakes, the car turning over, then plummeting off the road, the stench of petrol as it tumbled down the hillside, and finally the fire that threatened to engulf them. Petra had worn her seatbelt. Her numb fingers struggled to undo it. She screamed at her sister in the driver's seat to move. The car was going to explode. But her sister would never move again. Her eyes stared blankly at Petra as she wrenched open the door. Her head hung loosely to one side, the result of a twisted, broken neck, the coroner said. The guilt at surviving remained, raw and painful. It never left her. This man's words of comfort and support 10 months ago had saved her, stopped her taking the final step to join her sister. He was her saviour. She watched as his eyes widened in alarm. He was worried he'd upset her. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking," he mumbled in apology. "I'm such an idiot." He raised his hand to slap his own forehead, and Petra grinned. "It's all right," she said, reaching for his hand across the table. His skin was icy cold as she expected. He tried to pull his hand back. "It's okay. We all have issues, don't we?" She smiled, trying to reassure him. He glanced down at her warm hand and nodded. He had ghosts and problems too. Images of his family, dead these many centuries, flicked across his mind. The decades of loneliness and isolation made his heart twist and ache. "I'm glad you're orange," she whispered, interpreting his thoughts. "I'm glad you're orange too," he answered honestly. My mother would have loved this woman like a daughter, he realised. Maybe it's time for me to forgive myself for surviving and move on. They smiled together. Petra knew then things between them would be fine. My sister would have loved this man like a pack brother, she reflected, paralleling his thoughts. That one thought freed Petra's mind. Maybe it's time for me to forgive myself for surviving and move on. Besides, we'll produce the most awesome orange-haired offspring, and my alpha will be blown away that I've secured a vampire as my mate. I hope you enjoyed that. If you do, please leave me a thumbs up or make a comment, and I look forward to seeing you again next time on my next podcast. Goodbye.